I'm calling this Candid with Paul Boden. Thanks and welcome to the KZFR Peace and Social Justice Show, Paul Boden.
Yeah, hey, thank you for having me.
No further ado, I'm saying Candid with Paul Boden. So blanket coverage, homelessness on the 29th. Paul, what's your thoughts on this, man? What's going to come out of this?
What's going to come out of it? A whole bunch of articles are going to come out of it. Part of me is very concerned because it's supposed to be solutions-based journalism, and I've spent a lot of years tracking the mainstream media and their presentation of poverty in general, of race in general, and specifically on homelessness. And I don't think this is where our solutions are going to come from. So if they use this time and this little campaign as an opportunity to do fact-checking on what they've been getting told for all these years through the government officials and even some of the big corporate nonprofits, about how well poor people are being served or what services are available to poor and homeless people, and do some actual fact-checking, man. You've got enough lead-up time to the 29th to, get on your freaking computer and go to the HUD budget and find the dollar amount connected to Housing First, because it ain't there. And instead of doing that, they've just kept regurgitating this BS about this wonderful Housing First program.
If I can kind of transpose what you said from my heart, you're kind of going solutions-based. I mean, RAP has been singing this thing and telling people where to go and how to find this information. I've been involved in this 4 years. It's like, we don't need any more information. We need results. We need people to go, hey, I checked the facts. Let's do this thing. Is that essentially what you're saying, Paul Boden?
Yeah, we need to afflict the comfortable, as Ambrose Pierce said at one point. We need that kind of journalism. We don't need kids or journalists to tell us, well, I got some press releases sent my way, and I covered a politician at a press conference, and here's what I think the solution is. No, we don't need that. And it's not that RAP, should be, taken verbatim.
Right.
We put our info in there, and we put it in a way where we encourage people to check our facts.
So you're looking for people to dive in a little deeper, like investigative journalism, like Without a Roof's going to be doing. I'm going to be there for 4 or 5 days, man. And Paul, I wanted to say this. I've really been shifting my focus. I hate homeless videos. I hate's too strong a word, but maybe not, how they cover homelessness. They treat people like they're broken, like they need to be fixed. Oh, what's the worst thing that happened to you today, man? I've talked to enough homeless people now, Paul. I consider these people our community heroes for being able to survive in this crazy environment that they're forced into. I mean, what would you say to that?
Well, it's also so similar to poverty programs. When they did welfare reform, they started mandating life skills training for poor parents.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but you had these 20-something kids right out of MSW school teaching poor people life skills. And I swear, I've seen the curriculum. One of them was how to set a freaking alarm clock. How condescending and insulting could you possibly be?
Not much more.
You want to wipe out welfare? Wipe out welfare. Don't say it's because the people are dysfunctional. Say it's because you hate their guts. You wipe out affordable housing funding, you put people out in the street. Don't then dissect them and make them the issue. Homeless people did not create homelessness. It was created way above their pay grade. And that's where they should be focusing, and that's where they should be looking if they're going to talk about information to the general public, why millions of people are sleeping in our streets every night.
I hope to meet her, Martha Bridegame, man. She has my favorite quote of all time. She said, next time someone tells you people are homeless by choice, simply ask them why only poor people are making these choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where should I focus my effort, Paul? I do investigative journalism. I'm really kind of a guy that wants to get the story out, of the humanity of it and the kind of the scale of it. What should I be doing when I'm in San Francisco, man? If you could lead me in a direction, where should I be looking at? Who should I be talking to, man?
There's the Mission Resource Center, there's Hospitality House, there's the Gubbio Project, there's Martin DePorres, there's the Coalition on Homelessness, obviously. I think looking at and really trying to make sure that you look at the various aspects of what is the system that people are confronting, how are they getting into that system, and how accessible is it for them to access that system, and what's at the back end of it.
And how degrading it is. And I hear a lot of people equate shelters to jail. Actually, some people like jail better than shelters. So,
well, I think that, that's a kind of universal statement. I don't know that if shelters were created, and I'm old enough, I was there when they opened the shelter system in San Francisco, as a temporary respite,
Yeah.
And that's what a shelter has
Yeah,
always
it's
been.
crazy.
And that's why homeless programs were originally funded by FEMA, not by HUD, by FEMA. And in that context, if you're looking at it from a crisis perspective, a shelter is a shelter is a shelter, and they're supposed to give respite from the crisis. But to look at shelters as an answer to homelessness is trying to get a square peg into a round hole.
Jenks wrote a beautiful book called Homelessness, but he had a point that he called the shelter system therapeutic incarceration. And I'm whoa, he nailed that one.
I mean, what happened was shortly after the light dawned that homelessness wasn't a temporary phenomenon connected to the recession of the late 70s, but was in fact the result of massive cuts to affordable housing from 79 to 82. By 87, cities knew it. Like, this isn't a temporary phenomenon. These aren't temporary emergency shelter facilities, which is what they were all funded as and what they were all called, temporary facilities, because this was a short-term situation. The housing funding never gets restored. It became a permanent part of our society right now. 34 years, you would have to say it's pretty goddamn permanent. So shelters have become a tier of housing for poor people. In that system, they got mandated to move when I was homeless, the check-in time for the shelter and the Tenderloin at Hospitality House was 11 o'clock at night. The times have been moved up. South of Market Multi-Service Center, you have to be in from 4 to 6 so that you're not out in front of the facility while people are walking to the subway to go home from work. And then you're allowed out for an hour, and you have to be in from 8 to 9 or 6 to 8. You're allowed out again, and then you're in for the night at 8 o'clock at night. These are grown adults. That's going to make it feel like, so you got to go in for 2 hours just in order, or you lose your bed. So if you don't go check in and stay inside for 2 hours in the middle of the day for no other reason than they don't want people to see you, that's going to start feeling like a goddamn jail.
Exactly, and one of my worst concerns, I hear this all the time, and not only in Chico, well, I guess they just couldn't follow the rules. Let's put you in that shelter and see how long you last.
And then it becomes the provider's fault, and that's the divide and conquer.
Yep.
And you look at the welfare offices, and it seems that the welfare workers hate the clients. The clients hate the welfare workers. The public housing workers hate the people that are trying to get into public housing or living in public housing. This divide and conquer is so prevalent in all of our poverty systems.
Yeah, they treat you like a number. I mean, the whole system is set up, they treat you just like a number, and they give people's got so many paperwork on your desk, they don't have time to kind of connect with the human being. They just got to, cross the T's and dot the I's. It's insane.
And the workers are trained that their job is to screen you out. It isn't to help you get in, because there isn't enough resources available.
Yeah.
If there was housing for everybody, the workers wouldn't be put in that predicament of, you got to make goddamn sure most of the people you see every day do not get into housing, because there's no housing there for them to get into.
And that's a lousy place to be as a social worker, too, because it really wears on them. So the whole process is kind of right.
Well, you get burnt out and callous and cold-hearted, or you die.
Hopefulness, Paul. There's always that hope. I always have a lot of hope. That's what keeps me going. What are your aspirational expectations? So if you were to kind of go, hey, we're going to do this journalism on the street, homelessness, blanket coverage, they say this, they say that. 6 months from now, if you had aspirational goals, what would it look like? What would have happened in San Francisco?
I have not a clue. I'm sorry, but, I have not a clue what this day or days of media spotlight. The only thing I guess that I am really hoping for in the couple of interviews that I've done, I was on TV or, filmed for TV yesterday for a long time because I'm old and I was here in the beginning of our system starting up, where this reporter really was like, so how did we get into this in the first place? And I think if enough of the journalists that are looking into this stuff or participating, I think there's 70 news agencies that are participating in this little event. If enough of them give the reporters time, because obviously they had them out doing interviews yesterday, the thing ain't going to air till the 29th. So that's about editors giving reporters time to do their job.
Yeah, exactly.
There's another pretty cool-seeming woman that is doing a whole, spending a lot of time doing an article on hygiene centers. So if enough of those things pop out of this that are investigative as opposed to solution-based, they're not trying to fix it, they're trying to define it, then, hopefully it'll resonate. Like, obviously, us saying it at RAP has resonated within the communities of organizations that we work with, but I can't say that it's totally resonated with the general public. So if the message that there's a housing crisis, that there's a hygiene crisis, as opposed to there's people peeing and pooping in the streets and sleeping in the streets, that would be awesome.
I guess my aspirational goals, Paul, is, housing for everyone that needs it, mental health services for everyone that needs it, and quit treating people like criminals.
Well,
that'd be my three. That'd be my big three.
Out of a one-day journalism fest, more power to you, brother.
Aspirational, man. I'm really grasping. Hey, any final thoughts, Paul? I mean, how excited are you that Without a Roof's coming? I don't know. Maybe you're not excited. If you're not excited, that's okay. We won't edit it. We'll just... I'm excited. I'm excited to get down there.
No, I think it'd be great. I mean, I'm not 100% clear of what you plan on doing, but I'm 100% supportive of making goddamn sure you got a decent place to stay, you got a place to leave your bags and your stuff so that you can get out and do your stuff, and I think it's great having you in town.
So you're going to give me the housing that I mentioned, mental health services if I need it.
No.
And no mental health services.
And I'll give you Budweiser, but that's about as extensive as my mental health treatment gets.
Well, Paul, by the time I cut my head down there, you're going to know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to put a media plan together. I'm actually going to be talking with, I call her Kelly Cutler, the coolest Catholic. I'm going to be interviewing her from the Coalition and Street Sheet. And I can't wait. She's going to show me around, man.
Yeah, and definitely send that to me, because Kelly also, not just talking to Kelly, you want her to bring you to some of the different places that the Coalition hangs out with.
Well, let's throw this out on the air, because one of the things I'm going to talk to Kelly about is I'm going to be like, Kelly, it's Paul. So Paul Boden, if I was to do one piece of journalism, I do written word, photography, moving images to sound, or all three, what would it look like? So if you had someone out doing what you wanted them to do, what would I be doing? So think about that.
All right, I will.
You may get that.
I will.
All right, man. All right, brother. I'm looking forward to seeing you, Paul Boden.
Yeah, you too, brother, man.